From WNBC TV in New York, this is Live at 5 with Jack Cafferty and Sue Simmons.
Good evening. A shocking case of sodomy, sex abuse, torture, and pornography in Westchester County.
A 209-count indictment was handed up today against a man employed by IBM in White Plains. All of the charges involve children between the ages of 7 and 17. Perry Peltz is outside the Westchester County Courthouse in White Plains now with the very latest for us. Perry?
Jack, officials say that most of the alleged sexual offenses took place in Harold Hotchkiss' home. The 45-year-old lives in Ossining, New York, and he is employed by IBM as what is called a systems analyst. But we are told that several months ago he checked himself into a Connecticut Institute for Psychiatric Care. 45-year-old Harold Hotchkiss stood quietly in Westchester County Court as his attorney entered a plea of not guilty to 209 counts of different sexual crimes, including 45 counts of sodomy in the first degree, numerous charges of sexual abuse in the first degree, and use of a child in a sexual performance. At a news conference this afternoon, District Attorney Carl Vigari described some of the incidents that allegedly took place to 10 boys between the ages of 7 and 17 during 1984 through 1989.
These acts not only included anal and oral sodomy, but also acts of torture, shock treatment, beatings, the application of clamps to private parts. And also, as part of this activity, the defendant made tape recordings and did photographs for the purpose of promoting the distribution of obscene materials as it related to the abuse of infant children.
Vigari would say little about how Hotchkiss allegedly met the 10 Westchester youths. The district attorney ruled out any connection with Hotchkiss's employment at IBM. He did say it was through personal contacts.
Just a basic approach to young boys whom he felt might be susceptible, who might be swayed, who might be induced, or perhaps to children, even of those tender years, who have that bent to start out with.
After leaving court this afternoon, Harold Hotchkiss was taken for a psychiatric evaluation to see if he'll be able to assist in his own trial. After that, he's being taken to Westchester County Jail, where he is being held without bail. Reporting live from Westchester County Court, I'm Perry Peltz. Back to you, Jack and Sue.
Thanks, Perry, very much.
New York Yankees outfielder Luis Polonia is in trouble with the law in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Polonia was arrested at about 7 this morning at the downtown Pfister Hotel where the team is staying. Sal Marciano joins us with more on the latest Yankee controversy.
Sue and Jack, the Yankees of 1989 have lost more ball games than they've won. And until today, their bad news was spelled out in the arithmetic of box scores. But this morning, left fielder Luis Polonia got into trouble. He's now in the custody of police in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Currently, we're investigating an alleged sexual assault which occurred at the Pfister Hotel approximately 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. this morning. The victim is a 15-year-old female and alleged that sexual intercourse was conducted between her and a member of the baseball organization. I believe it was the Yankees.
And how did it come about that you folks found out about this and you made the arrest?
My understanding is that the mother of the female victim here notified the police department of her missing status, and subsequently investigation led to the Pfister Hotel, where in fact she was found in company with our 24-year-old suspect.
No formal charges at this hour. While Polonia was in jail today, Mel Hall started in left field for the Yankees in their afternoon game in Milwaukee. No statement yet from the team. If Polonia is indeed guilty, it's my guess his days as a Yankee are over. Owner George Steinbrenner has always maintained that his players are tied to tradition as upright and righteous athletes fortunate to wear pinstripes. The 24-year-old Polonia is from the Dominican Republic. He lives now in the Bronx. The Yankees obtained him this summer in the Ricky Henderson trade with the Oakland Athletics. And this is his first full season in the major leagues.
Sal Marciano, thank you. The judge in Leona Helmsley's tax evasion trial says he will let the hotel queen try to convince the jury that she actually overpaid her income taxes. Helmsley, on trial in Manhattan federal court, claims that she has new evidence showing that she and her husband, Harry Helmsley, overpaid their taxes by $681,000 between 1983 and 1985. Those are the same years they're accused of evading taxes by billing $4 million worth of renovations to their Connecticut mansion to their hotel empire. The Helmsley trial is now in recess until Monday to allow both sides time to prepare for the introduction of the new evidence.
Informal negotiations were held today between NYNEX and its striking communications workers. According to management, talks broke off with no progress made. Today's meeting took place less than 24 hours after a striker died of injuries suffered in a picket line confrontation. The dispute centers on wages and company plans to cut back health benefits.
Commuters on New Jersey's I-78 got some relief today from that traffic nightmare that has lasted more than a week now. Part of that roadway, you may recall, was burned and buckled in a fire. Part of the roadway was reopened this morning after last week's trash fire actually melted the elevated highway and forced authorities to shut it down. Some eastbound lanes are now open. The traffic will remain heavy for some time to come. All traffic has to flow into 3 lanes, and commuters can still expect rush hour delays, we're told. 3 of I-78's elevated roadways were heavily damaged in the fire in trash that was illegally dumped by the Hub Recycling Company, according to authorities. Governor Kane has issued an emergency order to clear out the Hub garbage, but local officials have filed suit to stop the removal, saying it violates county procedures and might be unsafe.
No one knows really what's there, and we want to make sure that there is nothing being taken out of there that should not be. There's been reported conflicts in the press, some saying that it was propane tanks were there, others heard drums exploding. We don't know whether it's toxic or non-toxic.
County and City of Newark officials also are reportedly upset because they would miss out on disposal fees for the removal.
There's a new furor tonight over last week's shooting of an undercover narcotics police officer during a drug buy in the Bronx last week. The police department's Hispanic Society says police knew the officer was in danger before the raid and is calling on 3 supervising officers to resign. 24-year-old Officer Gary Ortiz took a bullet in the heart and his liver was almost shattered when he was shot during a drug buy operation on Bathgate Avenue. Today, the police department Hispanic Society said before the operation, an informant tipped Bronx police the undercover cop would be in danger if he took part. And a society spokesman disputes police claims Officers Ortiz knew that and could have aborted the operation.
It's really ludicrous. There's pressure put on these young men and women. You may say that you don't want to do a particular operation, but I'll tell you what, you're not going to be in the narcotics division too much longer after that, and that's a fact.
The Police Hispanic Society is also calling for a grand jury investigation. Officer Ortiz remains hospitalized in serious but stable condition.
Surgeons at Montefiore Medical Center in the Bronx operated today on a 19-month-old Soviet child who's suffering from a severe brain tumor. Howard Thompson standing by live now outside Montefiore with the latest on the boy's condition and the outcome of the surgery. Howard?
Jack, 19-month-old Kirill Podoshansky underwent a 9-hour surgical procedure today. The remaining members of that surgical team are closing on the boy right now, but doctors here at Montefiore Medical Center are being neither pessimistic or optimistic. Instead, they're being very cautious before they make any determination on the outcome of this very delicate operation. 19-month-old Kirill Podoshansky was wheeled into the OR at 7:30 this morning, the young Soviet boy facing a procedure that could take up to 15 hours. Doctors at Montefiore Medical Center say the brain tumor filled up half the child's head. The surgical team knew the tumor was large, but preoperative screenings did not reveal the entire composition of the growth. According to physicians, the tumor is interlocked with Kirill's brain. Because of this, doctors were able to remove only 80%.
It's a very difficult type of operative exposure and a very difficult to expose that much tumor area. And also one has to be cautious in setting up such a small child for surgery, and anesthesia has to be carefully carried out, which is being done.
Kornblith also says at this time the remnants of the tumor appear to be benign, which is a significant boost in terms of the child's survival.
The majority of the tumor has been removed surgically, and a large cystic area or fluid-filled area has been drained.
Kirill Portashansky arrived here in the United States last week. Months before his arrival, his grandmother was listening to a Voice of America radio broadcast hosted by Dr. Irene Kilner, who was interviewing Marcy Rogers from the International Craniofacial Foundation. Zora Danivoskia wrote Kilner a letter telling the radio host about her grandson's condition. What happened next was glasnost at its best. Both governments cooperating, realizing the importance of the humanitarian gesture. Within a matter of months, young Kirill Portashansky was on his way to the United States.
The patient's vital signs have been stable, and the patient seems to be tolerating it well, and we're accomplishing the goals which we had set out. So from this standpoint, it's satisfactory. What we'll have to see is what the patient's status is post-surgically and what the final pathology material appears to be.
Joining me now is Dr. James Goodridge, the lead surgeon on today's medical team that was conducting this 9-hour procedure. Dr. Goodridge, what is the status of the child right now?
At present, the child is quite critical but stable. We didn't have any unusual problems during the surgery, but we're monitoring very closely.
We understand that you're only able to take out 80% of the tumor because it was interconnected with the brain. Is this what gave you some of the difficulty?
That's correct. The tumor actually invaded a part of the brain we call the thalamus, which is very important in regulation, and that area is not easily disturbed, so at that point we pulled back.
What is in terms of the child's future and his neurological function, is it too early to tell if he will have proper neurological function?
Absolutely. At this point, of course, the child's still asleep, and it's going to take us at least 2 to 3 days before we'll be able to adequately assess his neurological exam.
I understand you were able to speak with his grandmother, who has been here the past week and brought Kirill to this country. What were you able to tell her?
Well, she basically asked what the tumor was, and we've explained it as what we call a benign optic glioma, and that the prognosis, if the child makes it through the postoperative period, should be reasonably good.
Okay, we're going to bring in Dr. Craig Hall right here. Dr. Craig Hall is one of the people who was actually responsible for Kirill Portashansky coming to this country. Doctor, you were the plastic surgeon involved in this today, and I understand you just finished completing the procedure. What can you tell us for an update?
Right. Well, basically, after Dr. Goodridge took out the tumor, there was an excess volume of cranial space. We had to do about a 10% reduction of the cranial volume, and that's what we finished now. The child's doing very well, and he's just about being brought into the recovery room.
But the next 2 or 3 days are critical in terms of his full recovery.
Right. He's going to be monitored closely in intensive care, watch for changes in heart rate and respiration.
Taking out only 80% of the tumor, does that mean that he'll have to have some type of chemotherapy when he goes back to the Soviet Union?
He's going to have adjunctive therapy. It'll either be chemotherapy or radiation therapy. We have to work that out with the Soviets.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Craig Hall and Dr. James Goodridge, the two physicians who were involved in a very lengthy 9-hour procedure on 19-month-old Kirill Portashansky, of course, the Soviet boy who was flown here last week to have this very serious brain operation. And we will have more at 6 o'clock. Jack and Sue, back to you.
Howard Thompson, thank you.
Still ahead today on Live at 5, a mother and child have been reunited thanks to some sharp eyes. We'll meet the woman responsible for the happy ending to this story.
Also coming up today, if you look skyward later on tonight, you may be able to see something you won't see for another 4 years. We'll have a live report on the lunar eclipse this evening. It stars Anthony Hopkins and Jeremy Irons. Pia reviews the new movie Chorus of Disapproval. And the Rolling Stones announce when and where they'll be appearing in New York. All ahead on Live at 5.
If you're arguing about it, it's on. Donahue.
Did you feel straight when you married?
I had always known that I was a lesbian. I had no idea what to do with it.
I denied it because I was homophobic. I denied it because I felt ashamed.
We were wondering what your show was going to be about, and we prayed it wouldn't be a bunch of gays and lesbians.
Gay versus straight love on the next Donahue.
Weekdays at 4 on Channel 4.
Now here's a Room Plus tale about our summer sale. Get the hottest furniture around at the coolest prices in town. There's sizzling children's rooms in all the colors and styles. And mellow master bedrooms you can find in designers' files. There's wall units galore. And everything you saw and more is on sale now at a Room Plus store. Save, save, save. That's the Room Plus summer sale too. Come in now or dial 1-800-262-ROOM.
The Dodge Factory Authorized Clearance is on, and we're blowing out our inventory with double-dollar deals. Choose sporty Dodge Shadow. We've doubled the cash back, now giving you $1,500. Or get $1,500 double cash on economical Dodge Omnis too. And millions of dollars in factory-to-dealer incentives could save you even more on Daytonas and most pickups. Here's more for you, America, with double-dollar deals on Omni and Shadow at your Dodge dealer now.
That was me, bald as a billiard ball. Then I found the cure.
Kretschmer wheat germ can't grow hair on your head, but it can top your ice cream with great nutrition and crunch.
Baldness. Who says you can't lick it?
When I heard I could improve my measurements, I thought it was some crazy half-baked scheme.
Adding Kretschmer wheat germ can't give you an hourglass figure, but it can make your baking more nutritious.
Perfect measurements, you know. Make me a smart cookie.
Kretschmer, the heart of the wheat.
Arrested. Drunk driving. Me. Almost threw myself on the mercy of the court. Then a friend said, don't make a bad mistake worse. Call Jacoby and Myers.
New York State's highest court agreed today to hear the appeals of 3 white men convicted in the 1986 attack on 3 blacks in Howard Beach. Scott Kern, John Lester, and Jason Ladone were granted appeals. They were convicted in December of 1987 of second-degree manslaughter and first-degree assault in the incident which resulted in the death of Michael Griffith, a 23-year-old black man. The case is likely to reach the top court late this year or early next year.
People in New York are sometimes considered by some people to be indifferent, if you will, or perhaps even a little cold-hearted. But it was all because of an alert passerby in Manhattan took the trouble to stop and find out what was going on that a young mother is now reunited with her 2-year-old son. Little Brendan Broderick had been held by a religious cult since he was 17 days old. He's back with his mother tonight, Mary Lou Weinzettel, because a woman saw the little child in the back seat of a derelict car, became suspicious, and called 911. The child's father and 2 other men have now been arrested and are being held on kidnapping and other charges. And Ms. Weinzettel is getting a chance to know her son, even though he's 2 years old now. David Diaz first reported this happy reunion here on Live at 5 yesterday, and he's back today, and with him is the woman who made it all possible, Mary Higgins. David?
Yes, thank you, Jack, indeed. And Mary works downtown in the area where the boy was. And why don't you tell our viewers, Mary, what happened? You were walking down the street, you were coming back from lunch, and what was it that caught your attention and made you suspicious?
Well, I was approaching the back of the car, and I saw a little boy in the back seat, and he was standing up and smiling at me. And I thought to myself, oh, what a cute little boy. And then I continued walking, and something odd looked. There was something strange about the car, and I turned around and I saw a man in the back seat, and he was trying to duck down. And I also noticed that the car appeared as though it had been abandoned. And I thought to myself, oh, it's probably nothing. But then I said, oh, what the heck, I'll go back to the office and call 911. And that's basically what happened.
But a lot of people wouldn't have taken that step. In New York, a lot of people, the conventional wisdom is, hey, don't get involved, you're asking for trouble. So did you go through any hesitation about it, and if so, what made you get involved?
I didn't have any hesitation because it would be worse living with myself knowing that all I had to do was pick up the phone and dial in the case something was wrong, you know, and change somebody's life around. And I had no hesitation about dialing 911.
All right, so then you called, and lo and behold, the cops showed up. Was that a surprise?
Yes, I was surprised somewhat, but I knew they would show up, and they showed up within the next 5 minutes. And the first precinct called me up the next day and said that they had the little boy. They didn't know who he belonged to, but they were trying to locate his mother.
And then you finally got a phone call from the boy's mother. What did she say, and how did you react to that?
She was very, very happy, and she thanked me, and it made me feel like I just won the New York lottery. It was the greatest feeling in the world.
I bet. Now, you know, you have to think back. You hear a lot of awful things that happen in New York City, and they do happen. What makes you feel somehow to connect to something like this? What makes you feel that it was the right thing to do?
Well, first of all, you read so much in the news and see so much on television about missing children. And there was something strange about the situation, and I know other people who have seen similar situations and just didn't bother to do it. And it didn't cost me anything. It was the easiest thing in the world for me to do, to pick up the phone and dial.
And it had an incredible outcome, of course.
Yes, beyond my wildest dreams.
How about that? A good citizen that does the right thing in New York City. Sometimes I think that we don't believe it can happen. Mary Higgins is living proof that it does, and I'm sure that a lot of people are happy for you.
Well, it was my pleasure.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Jack, Sue.
David,
That's great.
Mary.
Thanks, David.
Up next, Dr. Bruce Hensel tells us about a breakthrough in detecting Huntington's disease.
And more troubles for Pete Rose. We will tell you about a shoving match with an umpire at last night's Cincinnati Reds game with the Chicago Cubs. Stay with us.
There's one thing I hate about my legs. Shaving. They feel like sandpaper the next day. Now there's a way to have silky, smooth legs that last for weeks. It's the brilliant Epilady. Epilady's coil removes hair at the root, so there's no stubble the next day. Epilady proves that we ladies weren't meant to shave. Another beauty breakthrough from Epi products. Now Epi Heat, a heat pack for more comfortable hair removal with Epilady.
Wait a minute. Let me get this straight. You mean after we close our loan, we've got 2 weeks to change our mind for any reason?
Any reason at all?
And the money store will cancel our second mortgage loan? Guaranteed?
That's right. Just return the money and the deal is off. At no cost to you.
It's kind of a loan you can live with before you decide to marry it.
That's a great deal. The money store must be very confident that their loans are the best.
Absolutely. We became America's #1 independent home equity lender by giving homeowners what they want. Folks appreciate the safety net of a money-back guarantee. Of course, our low fixed rates speak for themselves. The affordable monthly payments are locked in for the life of the loan. Qualified homeowners may get quick approval right over the phone, and interest payments on second mortgage loans may be fully tax deductible. For all the details about our money-back guarantee, call the money store toll-free. Dial 1-800-LOAN-YES.
Ready for a weather update? Pontiac heat is on. How hot is Pontiac? They're outselling Nissan, Honda, and Toyota. They're #3 going for #1. And during excitement countdown, there's $200 million in factory cashback available on new Pontiacs now in dealer stock. Like up to $1,850 cashback on Grand Prix and Grand Am for qualified first-time buyers. Count down the excitement and feel the Pontiac heat now.
Keeps the kids off the street.
Now I have a lot more friends than I did.
I love it.
Kids need the Boys Club. We need your help.
A shoving match has put Cincinnati Reds manager Pete Rose at the center of a new investigation. National League officials are reviewing last night's melee, which took place after the Reds lost to Chicago. The final Cincinnati batter had just been declared out on a called strike. Rose came to the defense of his second baseman, who was arguing, and maybe more, with umpire Joe West. Rose apparently got in a shove or two of his own. Well, last year, Rose was fined $10,000 and suspended for 30 days after pushing another umpire.
San Francisco pitcher Dave Dravecky, who staged a gutsy, dramatic comeback following cancer surgery on his throwing arm, is now out of baseball, probably for the rest of the season with another medical problem. Dravecky collapsed last night on the mound after hurling a pitch in the 6th inning against Montreal. He has broken the bone in his upper left arm, the same area where he had a tumor and part of the muscle removed last fall. After initial treatment in Montreal, Dravecky headed home via a stopover in Chicago, where these pictures were taken. Meanwhile, in Cleveland, the doctor who performed last year's cancer surgery said he would not rule out another comeback by Dave Dravecky. He said that the surgery probably left the bone in his arm.
Proven that his shoulder, without a deltoid muscle, is able to perform at the level that he's proven he can. I mean, it's tremendous. My understanding is that he's thrown a baseball only a mile an hour slower than he was throwing before this tumor. So this fracture isn't going to change the ability of his shoulder to function. So once the fracture heals, he should still be able to propel his hand in a ball at 88 miles an hour.
Doctors said that the injury to Dravecky's arm is probably related to that cancer operation. He said the surgery left Dravecky's arm bone brittle.
Doctors think they've made a medical breakthrough in the detection of Huntington's disease. This disease, like many neurological disorders, affects the body and the mind. But as Dr. Bruce Hensel reports, Huntington's disease is the most devastating. One of America's best-known families knows only too well.
This land is your land, and this land is my land, from the California to the New York Island.
Woody Guthrie was one of America's best-loved singers until he died from Huntington's disease, a tragic disorder which first affects movement, then robs the person of the ability to think.
I went walking that ribbon of highway. I saw above me that endless skyway.
Specialists say that Woody's son Arlo's life is marked by the possibility that he too might develop the dreaded syndrome.
By the time the disease starts to present, many people have already had their children. So even if the patient, the Huntington's disease patient, were to decide that the buck stops here, I'll be the last in my family to have this condition, they don't really have any knowledge as to whether or not they've got the condition until it's almost too late to do anything about it.
Well, that's because it's a genetic disease. Every child with a parent who has Huntington's gets a 50% chance of getting the disorder themselves. But scientists have discovered an area on one of our chromosomes that may be responsible for the disease, and that may make all the difference in the world for the offspring. Through the use of blood tests and genetic mapping, doctors can determine with more than 95% accuracy whether or not a person has inherited the gene. Paul Johnston's mother had Huntington's. He and his sister have tested negative. That's changed the way he's dealing with his life.
I was married, and my former wife knew about the disease, and we agreed not to have any children because of this, because at the time the only way to stop the disease was to not have any children, pass it on.
According to scientists, that knowledge may be only one of the benefits yielded by this new discovery.
There is the possibility that using other DNA techniques, one might be able to provide the normal enzyme to a Huntington's patient and thereby prevent the progression of the disease.
Extensive psychological counseling is part of the process. Gary Crosshart, whose mother died of Huntington's also, already has 2 grandchildren. After much soul-searching, he decided to proceed with the test.
Before I'm dead and gone, I would certainly like to know whether I've broken the chain of HD so far as my family goes, or if I haven't.
Dr. Bruce Hensel for News 4, live at 5.
On Friday, Dr. Hensel reports on a safer, easier way for doctors to perform vasectomies.
Okay.
Easy for me to say, I know you're going to say it.
That's right.
Yes.
Coming up next, we'll update tonight's top stories for you.
And mayoral candidate Richard Ravitch joins us. We'll be right back.
The jolting news of that morning will never be forgotten.
What's going on, chaps?
Mr. Thomas had closed his bake shop and taken his muffins to America.
Thomas's English Muffins, England's breakfast tradition in America's hands.
I used to think I was a savvy New Yorker. I'd wait for the sales at the department stores, but I couldn't always find what I wanted. Then a really savvy shopper told me about Foreman's. Foreman's has a fabulous selection of designer clothes discounted all the time. Plus, there are 3 separate Foreman stores. One for petites, one for regulars, and one for larger sizes, too. Foreman's is fabulous.
Foreman's of Orchard Street, in fashion, in season, in your size, and always at the right price.
Sometimes the roads are long, so it's good to know you've got some friends along the way. Pull into any Exxon retailer and you'll find advanced formula gasolines, precision equipment for precision engines. You'll also find the kind of help that makes those roads a little smoother. And that'll never change, because it's why people have been coming into Exxon and why they keep coming back.
Thanks.
Should women work out with weights? You tell me. Should women work out with weights?
Absolutely. These are the final days to get this great offer. Call 1-800-333-0177.
If you could buy a fully equipped 89 four-door Shadow for $79.95, you'd grab it, right? Grab it now at Potemkin Chrysler Dodge. Automatic, air conditioning, $79.95. Potemkin Chrysler Dodge, 48th and 11th in Manhattan. Grab it.
Keeps the kids off the street.
Now I have a lot more friends than I did.
I love it.
Kids need the boys' club. We need your help.
Updating tonight's top stories for you now. 45-year-old Harold Hotchkiss, an IBM employee in White Plains, has been charged with more than 200 counts of sodomy, sexual abuse, and torture. Hotchkiss is charged in crimes involving children between the ages of 7 and 17. The alleged abuses go as far back as 1984. New York Yankee outfielder Luis Polonia is in a Milwaukee jail tonight. He was arrested at the team's hotel early this morning in connection with the alleged second-degree sexual assault of a 15-year-old girl.
Guys have been in City Hall for years, talking. Well, the problems of the city have gotten worse.
The city
and worse.
Jump on this city, your city.
They've tried and failed. If you want more of the same, vote for one of them. If you want change, real change, I'm Dick Ravitch. I've solved tough problems, built housing, bought subway cars, wrote a tough new ethics code.
Pull the plug on City Hall. Turn to Ravitch for mayor. Once upon a time, a new musical popped up on Broadway and grew into the musical of the year.
To go to get your wish, be careful though. Into the woods, you never know what's lurking on the journey.
Where do you go for the musical that won 1988 Tony Awards for Best Score and Best Book of a Musical, and Drama Desk and New York Drama Critics Circle Award for Best Musical? Into the Woods, of course. Into the Woods at the Martin Beck Theater. For tickets, call 212-246-0102.
Learn CPR and learn how to save a life. Call the American Red Cross.